John X, we've talked a lot about some of the really practical things that need to happen. Now, you and I have had some conversations around some of the more really interesting ideas that could be, hopefully soon, but are a little more radical and interesting and sort of out there. So I'd love for you to sort of tell everyone here about some of the really interesting stuff that you're seeing and sort of where you see it, where you could see it going.
I don't even know where to begin.
Wherever you want.
I think it's important to note that there's this very broad spectrum of imagination happening right now. People thinking of the ways we can use these new information technologies, these new tools of human expression to make a positive impact on the way life is lived on Earth by people and by other species. And I think I'm trying to get more comfortable with the fact that this diversity of thought and like the breadth of expression is so important that we need people thinking about the harebrained ideas just as much as we need people working on the projects that are going to have an impact here and now. So, in the scheme of things, for example, Toucan Protocol is a relatively vanilla project, right? Like we take carbon credits from the existing registries and we transfer them onto a blockchain, transfer their functionality onto a blockchain, and it's a carbon token. There's not at the moment, we're not working actively on novel verification methodologies, et cetera. We're really working on getting that base level infrastructure right, because that needs to be very stable, very reliable, a strong foundation on which other people can build with tokenized carbon. But at the same time, there's a ton of really exciting work going on, imagining what Kevin Owocki refers to as these non-skeuomorphic applications of money that are enabled by smart contracts. So one, we're actually lucky to have him here, is an idea put forward by Jonathan Ledgard for a bank for other species. So this is a paper that came out a couple of months ago called Interspecies Money. And the idea is to create an account that is controlled by non-human species, and they can become agents in the economy that can express their preferences and advocate for themselves in the economic system. So an orangutan could pay a veterinarian to come take care of it, or a herd of wildebeest could invest in a business that's going to maintain their habitat rather than it being kind of taken over by an alternative company. A herd of dugongs could invest in a scientific study into their impacts on their carbon sequestration in seagrass. So there are some thorny questions that need to be answered here before this kind of comes to life, but that idea, that's really enabled by the technologies that we're working with. And it's not just blockchain, right? It's also remote sensing and IoT, it's machine learning and artificial intelligence. So that's one. Another idea that we've been developing at Astro is what Pat Rawson refers to as, he talked about this idea of a spatial economic modifier. Another way to put that is, what if money knew where it was in the world, right? And I think Sepp talking a bit about demurrage earlier is a really interesting kind of example to look at. So demurrage is a tax on money for how long it's held in an account, right? It's based on time. And what it does is it incentivizes you to spend your money closer to now. So what if instead of demurrage, we could have spatial demurrage, where the further away someone moves from an area of intended economic activity, the more heavy the tax is applied. That would encourage you to spend your money closer to here rather than now. So just there's an example. We've been thinking about like dynamic game preserves, that areas of protection move around with animals. There's all sorts.
Yeah, J.E., please.
Yeah, sure, thanks. I love those ideas, John. First time I've heard them, really excited about it. And I think the first time the interspecies money idea comes to mind, like, I just have to smile. There's something quite playful and beautiful and almost childlike about the ideas that are surfacing in this space. And I think there's a real power here if we can inhabit this childlike curiosity as we do very serious things like redesign money and address, cataclysmic climate change that could kill all of us. Like, what can we do together if we open our hearts and play like children do and play with the boundaries of this space? And so I think this idea of starting to tether money to time, starting to tether money to space, starting to tether money to different species, like we're starting to see a transition where money is no longer this infinitely growing entity that hypothetically can exist forever. What if it actually looks more like Earth? What if it actually looks and feels more like the living environment? And I think that's quite a fun and playful idea, and I just have really appreciated entering into the refi space where this is like a common thing. And I think we can all be our much better selves at work if we can open our heart space as well as our head as we redesign money with, those really detailed mechanisms of economics, but also like how it feels to interact with this system.
Birju, then Phil.
All right.